is to receive comments from the public. Mr. Unlin? No? Rhonda? No? Okay, let's be real. We all know each other, right? Number 3 is consider an act on request for adjustment or relief, Jeannie. All right. Next is the consent agenda, and I have one item. Hi there, Jim.
Hello.
I had one item I wanted to pull. Number 4 there on the meeting minutes. The third to last sentence says that project was put on pause when Water quit meeting. And I wanted to strike that because it's not,
Number 4?
it's the consent agenda. Item number 4 is review and act on the meeting minutes. And then go back to page 3 on the paper copy of our agenda. And the paragraph begins with GM Stinson reported that the Woodlands Drainage Task Force transitioned to the One Water Task Force. That paragraph, the sentence that I had issue with is that project was put on pause when One Water quit meeting. And I want to strike that sentence and say the project was put on pause and the communications committee has committed to pursue the website idea again. So I have that written down. I can pass you my paper on it. Is everybody okay with that? Because I was a member of that committee, yeah.
I think your addition is good. I guess I'm concerned about striking that sentence because that's what was said.
Well, I would have
Right.
clarified it if I was in the room, so I had issue with that going by.
But the minute should reflect what's said.
What's said
I
in the
think,
trustee
right?
meeting?
Versus
Yeah,
what I think
what we think.
your addition is, that was discussed.
Okay,
I would
here's
just-
what I propose then. I would propose that in the meeting minutes to this meeting, that I, as a member of the committee to do the website, pointed out that what was discussed at the trustee meeting was incorrect about what happened. And my preferred description of what happened is that the project was put on pause. We won't place blame, but just say the project was put on pause and the communications committee has committed to pursue the website idea again. So because the township board, they agreed to contribute 30,000 to the project, Mud 386, 3,000, and Woodlands Water, 27,000. And that's where the 60,000 came from.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, I don't want to see some headline that the old township board pulled their funds. They didn't. I called to confirm that they did not do that, that they were all 100% behind the website. So are you good with that?
I think that works.
Okay, thank you. So is there anything else that someone would like to pull from the consent agenda?
I have a couple questions, but I don't have
Yeah.
anything to pull
Okay,
or really change. I have some
go for it.
kind of nerdy questions, I think. On Maureen, probably for you, on page 6 of the financials where you go through the balance sheet items for Fund 473. Okay, and the two items that kind of caught my attention, the accounts receivable and the taxes receivable. So this is kind of my first time seeing us come over the fiscal year and taxes and all that. Is this? It's a big change from last month, obviously. So could you explain a little bit what that is? Why they're now in the millions, and is that normal and that just gets worked off?
It
Or
is a
just
rolling balance. The accounts receivable are when we bill for water bills, it creates a receivable and it gets worked down. So we run the bills, we post them at the end of the month, which grabs the latest bill for October, right? That you're showing, you don't see any payments to bring it down, which we're collecting during this month. Same with the taxes receivable. That's for maintenance tax. There's an entry created to book the beginning tax roll, and then it works down as.
Works its way off
That's correct.
as you get caught up. Okay, yeah, 'cause we're early in the payment cycle for the taxes. And the $1 million 1083 account receivable, is that kind of what we carry, about a million a month? Just in normal for the, yeah, 1150, yeah. Or does that look high to you, or is that just, I'm just,
It would probably, the last month that'll be high for a while, because we'll have the
Mhm.
winter months of usage, so that the bills will.
come down, so summer kind of peaks and follows the water use. Okay, that makes sense. And then on a little bit further down, liability line 2101 accruals, so you have a negative accrual. What's, I'm trying to understand the negative accrual. It'll be in a liability section, so it's like a
Right,
credit.
We may be reversing that. That came from last year, the roll forward for the way that the board wanted to budget the AMI project. They didn't want to show a negative budget, so we created a transfer from reserves. We may be reversing that entry. So I was trying to make it match the budget at the end of the year, so.
And sorry, just one more.
No, these are great questions. Thank
then-
you.
And I'm, they're kind of down in the weeds, but I just want to try to understand. So if you go to the Fund 472, right, which is down on page 8, we carry forward, there's another taxes receivable there, and then a deferred tax revenue, which offset and equal and opposite. They're a little bit higher than 473. Is it, what's?
Well, this is the debt.
This is the
service
debt
balance sheet,
service
so that-
piece,
That
so-
was higher. I believe there's a higher tax rate. It's, at the beginning of the year, we book the beginning tax roll. So there's an amount for debt services, an amount for operating, and then that just gets worked out.
Okay, so the difference is taxes, okay, tax rate. I think that's it. I'm not yet, sorry. Page 12 in our packet. It shows the, I guess, checks that were written by adding homestead exemption, disabled person exemption across a bunch of accounts. Now, this is October, mid-October through mid-November, mid-November, I guess.
Yeah, to capture the checks that y'all be approving and that are being paid.
Mhm. So is the process here that a homeowner has received the bill, obviously prior to this, right? But this is for the tax bill, correct?
Mhm.
And then they call and they say, oh, I don't see my homestead exemption on there, and then you guys add it on. And then
What happens is they have to apply for that at the Montgomery Central Appraisal District. And as soon as we get that change from the appraisal district, they get an automatic refund. If they paid it. And that's what you're seeing here, a check being
Okay.
cut for a homestead exemption.
So they need to cut them a check rather than just reducing that amount. You just cut them a check and they pay the full amount, and the difference is the homestead exemption reduction. Is that right? There are a lot of that going on. That seems like an awful lot of activity.
It's kind of normal this time of year
Is
when
it?
when the roll goes out, because the exemption department is behind because
Sure.
there's so many of them
Yeah.
coming in. But you'll see it start slacking off a little
Yeah,
bit. I
okay.
mean, you're always gonna see it, but not quite this much.
Right, okay. And a big changes in everyone's appraisal value, so
Sure.
I understand that.
Mhm.
Um,
And if you notice, some of these are 21 and 22. I mean, 21 and 20. If you notice on the sheet here.
Oh,
for the
last year.
exemptions. Tax year.
so they're
They can
retroactive?
go back, yeah.
They can go back 5 years.
Oh, really? Okay,
And
good.
if they don't apply for it, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, I can get it over 65 and I've been 65 for 5 years, they can go back and add it on for 5 years.
And that's not a Woodlands Water decision, that's a Montgomery
That's
County
a state, no, that's a
the
state
state
law.
level, okay,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, then last one, so I'll get out of your hair. Page 14, and now it shows like an aging of the tax roll payments. And it goes back to 2008, and it shows this column of things that are unpaid. Are those in a receivable, or is that just like historical reference, or
That
what?
would be the receivable balance, because it rolls forward until it gets worked out and paid down.
And are these from people who just left and not paid their bills, or
No,
their
these
check
are
is bounced, or
people
what?
that, it could be personal property. It could be people that have over 65 deferrals. You know, that is, if you put a deferral on your account, you don't pay your taxes. You're only charged interest. And when you sell your house or pass away, then that's when the taxes get paid.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
a,
Okay.
it just carries forward until.
So it's just an active aging
Right.
report that you just carry on, and that sits on a receivable somewhere on the balance sheet.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion to affirm or pass the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
It's passed. The regular agenda has our report from the San Jacinto River Authority next.
Good evening. I apologize if financials didn't make it into your monthly report, so I went ahead, I passed it out there, received. Operationally, I don't have anything else to add unless you have questions for me. If there's no questions, Ed has some updates.
I did.
Sure.
Let's see, page 18. It's with your wastewater data, and on wastewater treatment facility number 2.
Yes.
I just looked back to other months and the E. coli line seemed high. Is there something that went on that would be of interest to us, or is that
Yeah.
just normal variation in operations as you guys see it?
You'll get a spike every now and then when we're doing cleaning. We were doing filter cleaning on that day. So we think we've investigated, and that's what we kind of points to our filter cleaning.
Okay.
Chlorination was good, everything else was good, and
Yeah.
operating as it should. We just had a spike in that E. coli.
Okay. And so you follow up with that, obviously, and we'll see it probably come back down.
Yes, at the end of the day, the sample we pulled the next day was back at a 2.0.
Was it? Okay, yeah, because normally it's much lower than that.
Yes.
Okay. That's it for me on this one. Thanks.
Have at your place two handouts. One is this one-page chart. We had scheduled a November 29th all mud director meeting to update you on the status of the stakeholder process on strategic planning. After talking with several of the mud and talking and thinking about schedule going forward, we realized that there wasn't, and with the fact that most MUDs are canceling their December meetings, there wasn't going to be an opportunity to, I'll say, fully brief you in preparation for making a decision. So what we're planning to do is cancel the November 29th meeting, add a early January wastewater strategic plan recap for all the MUD directors, and we or Jim will send out a suggestion on dates. And this will be an opportunity for all the MUD directors to come in, and we'll give you a 2 or 3 hour briefing of what's going on with stakeholders. Now,
And just, we're looking at the first week in January, probably before the January 10th meeting,
correct.
and probably be an afternoon, early evening option like we had before, so more folks could attend.
And the reason is the meeting that was going to be on the 29th was only going to bring you up to date based on the last stakeholder meeting, which was last week. I think it was last week. It was recent. There is still some information being developed by our consultants and by our accounting team that would not have been available or were not presented on the 29th. And so what we're wanting to do is make certain that you have the latest information available, because as we present in January, we're going to be starting the process of getting you ready to direct your trustee to vote in March, for the trustees to vote in March on which path forward we're going to be doing on strategic planning. So we'll present in January at the MUD meetings, give you the basics for what the stakeholders have gone to. Talk about it again in February, that 2-step process. And then in February meetings, be asking you to direct your trustee on how to vote at the March trustee meeting. So that's this schedule. What I have, the other handout is the latest round of reduction of options from 9 options down to there's essentially 3 treatment plant options, and there are a couple of conveyance options. And so we'll go over these briefly. The colors represent the different colors, the yellow, the orange, the green represent the different timeframes. And you can see on the legend on the left-hand side what those timeframes represent. Yellow is 2027, green is 2047. And so the first one up on page 1 is repair and replacement with membrane treatment. And so we would do this in phases, with the potential of the decision being made as to whether after 2027, there's additional enlargement because of decisions being made about treatment plant number 2. Go to page 2. If you don't consolidate at treatment plant 1, well, let me back up. On treatment plant 1, this is a phased construction on new land, and phase being you build enough to meet present capacity needs, and then the next phase would be we know Howard Hughes has more land to develop, and that may be redeveloping, which may bring more wastewater to the plant. And so the orange phase would be to meet those needs within the service area. On page 2, repair and replacement with the membranes. Basically, we're replacing aeration basins and the clarifiers with an aerobic digester and membranes. And you can see the time frame on that. That's all in 2047. That tracks pretty closely with the timeline of when most of those facilities at plant 2 would need to be overhauled with major rehabilitation. So either one of those options, there's a conveyance requirement. And for treatment plant 1, we've been talking about eliminating 5 lift stations, making them gravity flow. And so on the 3rd page, this is repair and replacement of gravity lines to deliver flow for the membrane plant. And you can see the red circles with the slats through it. Those are the 5 lift stations that would be eliminated and converted to gravity flow.
This is for consolidation, for the consolidation.
Well, it could go either way.
Either way.
Is 48 inches big enough to allow for consolidation? And by eliminating the 5 lift stations, we do save operation and maintenance costs and major rehabilitation costs of those lift stations at some point in time. On page 4 is option 3C with membrane. This shows you the different timelines of which would occur, and this does consider consolidation. So when you see MBR, the full size, that would be plant 1 initially in 2027 and plant 2 being consolidated down to 2047. And you can tell by the crosshatched areas to the left of the facilities that would be taken out of service.
I'm confused.
This will, of course, require us to do or you guys to do acquisition of property.
In all 3 cases that you're seeing tonight, it does involve new land adjacent to the existing sewer plant, so that we can build and keep the current plant operational.
And so I also see that all of these, when I read them, they are membrane based.
Correct.
So I presume that the existing environment we have today is off the table.
Yes, sir. And the reason being, we're being told by our consultant that membrane operation and maintenance of membrane treatment is not that much.
Differential cost isn't.
Differential
problematic.
cost is a blip in the grand scheme of things.
Yep, great.
So on,
Yeah, sorry,
yes, sir.
hanging with you there for a while, but I think I lost you. So, first page is,
Repair and replacement.
but what happens with the existing plant 1?
It's demolished and the land is reclaimed.
And then in 3C,
Same thing.
what's
That doesn't change.
the difference then?
The only difference on page 1 is the membranes and is built in phases because we know we have, what, 5 million gallons a day? 5 million gallons a day, every day, right now. And we anticipate that growing. I think the current plant is permitted for 7.8. And so we're phasing in that, additional capacity.
So in one, you phase it in earlier,
Yes.
comes in at 27 and 37.
And then on page 4,
Four.
3C, we're doing it all at one time under the yellow.
What's going on in 2047?
That's bringing plant 2 down,
That's for two. Okay.
consolidated.
Gotcha. I see now.
Okay,
Now I'm with you.
all right.
Okay.
And so under 3C, there are 2 conveyance options. One on the left is all gravity from plant 2 all the way to plant 1. That's that green line, which shows a 42-inch and 48-inch. And then there are 7 lift stations that are eliminated with that project. And then the other option is on the right, where you have a combined option of force main and gravity line, but you're only eliminating 5 lift stations. And you would probably have to upgrade or rebuild the lift station at plant 2 for that scenario. So the last plant scenario is alternate number 9 on page 6. And this is basically going in, building membranes similar to 3C. And then at some future date, the directors in office at the time would decide what they want to do about plant 2.
And I imagine our developer, whoever it is at that time, would have first right to buy it for a low price, right? Just like this building.
You mean on the land, or
Yeah, on the land.
I'm not aware that he has that option on the plant property.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You'd have to look at the contract.
I've not, in the 18 months I've been here, I have not heard that mentioned.
Okay.
And then on the last page is the conveyance option for alternate 9. And that is just the gravity line, eliminating the 5 lift stations, still size it for a future consolidation, but not build beyond north.
So we could then sell the property at fair market value and use that to defray the cost of consolidation.
Potentially, or if there are other needs for maintenance facilities, Woodlands Water may need a different maintenance facility. We may need a northern place to house some equipment.
Good show.
So there are options on what to do with that land. Plus, some of that's floodplain, if I remember correctly. So
Mhm.
it wouldn't necessarily be an attractive site for development.
Mhm.
So Ed, are the conveyance options mostly being driven by when you decide to include plant number 2 or not? Or is there,
A little bit. Yes, sir.
all the black lines on like alt 9 or the others, that's all new conveyance, or is that
No,
just?
those are just existing lines. All you're doing on alternate 9 on page 8 is looking at the yellow line. That's the new feature.
Yeah,
The black lines are existing sewer lines,
gangly, okay.
and the blue lines are existing force mains. I don't know why we're showing well collection lines on there, but we are.
Yeah, that's what got me kind of confused.
You said yellow. I think the green line is the new.
Now on page 8,
Excuse me.
The 9, alternate 9 conveyance.
the yellow line is the new line. Because that's needed to eliminate the 5 lift stations.
I was on the wrong page.
Yellow's not.
So those are the options that our consultants are costing out and running the sensitivity analysis that Bob Lilac has mentioned. And we'll have more information at the stakeholder meetings on December 13th. And then be getting prepared for our early January meeting to brief all the MUD directors. Questions?
Helpful, thanks.
Can't wait to learn more.
The other items I have for you, a very quick update on infrastructure funding. This is the funding, the community project funding that Congressman Crenshaw is trying to get passed through Congress. Congress has not addressed the issue. So we're still waiting. We anticipate maybe by springtime, but the way we've got that project phased, we won't start any engineering work before August or September of next year anyway. So if the funding doesn't occur right away, it's no big deal. If it's even delayed until next fall, it's no big deal. Because we're really waiting on the Bear Branch drainage project, the big drainage project, because of the model. Infrastructure, Bear Branch Dam repairs. These are the small minor repairs that were done recently. Contractors finished. It's in warranty period. And then the final one, the Bear Branch Dam low flow vault update. Our contract documents are essentially ready to go solicit bids. We've been in touch with the vendor for the hatch, and he's telling us it's a 15-week, 15-week delay or delivery. So we're going to pursue bids, but also order the hatch simultaneously so things can be working together. Happy to answer any questions.
I had a question about the report from Steve Young on fault monitoring. I noticed it's not out on the website yet. Is it coming soon?
It's been delivered to Jim to post.
On your website, though?
But we wanted to post first on Google Drive, and then we will have it on ours, on the GRP site shortly.
Okay, I can't wait to see it, and I know the same is true for Dr. Meinrath. And speaking of it, I have another question. I see, I think it's page 33 of our packet. There's a fault line project where you give a summary about what Lockwood, Andrews, and Newman is doing. When will they start that project?
They are underway.
They are.
I've missed a few of the status meetings, so I will get an update and send Jim an email so he can share it with you.
I forwarded this picture of this part of our agenda onto Dr. Meinrath, and he wanted to make clear that he is very available to share the information that he has about the topography, and he keeps great information over all the years, and he has the Fugro study and Carl Norman's information from back then. And he's taught me all I know about the fault, and of course, I'm giving another tour on Tuesday, but he wanted me to let you know that he would make himself available to Lockwood, Andrews, Newman, and share any information he has. So
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have estuary questions?
Yeah, Ed, so it gets back to what we were just talking about, but we jumped forward a little bit. And I can get into this kind of when we have the directors meeting, but I thought I'd just ask you two questions now.
Sure.
It's in our package on page 52. It's talks about the development of capital and O&M costs.
Yes, sir.
And one little note on that page, I think it's the slide 15, perhaps, that was on the top of that page. It says, what's not included in the cost are current O&M costs that will not be incurred in the future. That just struck me as, is it just negligible or is it just,
Well,
what does that really mean? Does that really not mean that maybe?
and I heard this finally, I guess, resonated with me this morning. On some of the charts that are in this packet, where it shows O&M is hardly a blip in the cost. What they did is do the differential between, we're already incurring conventional operations and maintenance expense. And so they looked at only the differential of what extra cost it would incur to go to membranes. So one of the conversations today with Mr. Lilac was, we need to be looking, we need to see all of those costs, not just the differential. And so what may be occurring here, and I don't know this for certain, is there may be some of those conventional costs that we won't have going forward if we go memory. And that may be what they're referring to here.
And it seems odd that I can see the net differential, but to me, it seems like you're excluding a cost that you're not going to incur.
Right.
Seems like and the comment about MBR is now kind of competitive on O&M.
I'll just have,
It seems like anyway, someone will figure it out. I'm sure it just kind of stood out.
that is an interesting comment.
Yeah. So maybe we'll learn more maybe in January, right? When we
Okay.
see that. And then I guess the last thing is there an inflation factor that's being put in other than just like a traditional 2 or 3% on this? And I guess it's probably something to learn in the future, but I'm
We're
just
talking
curious.
about that because, this year's been a little bit of an anomaly.
Yeah.
In seeing 8 and 10% inflation. I was around for the double-digit inflation in the late 70s, early 80s, but we haven't seen it since. So we're struggling to figure out what inflation rate to use. We've talked to our financial advisor, and they're comfortable giving us projections on what bond interest rates might do, but they're not comfortable giving us guidance on what inflation rates might do. So we're probably going to use 2 and 4%, knowing that we can't predict what it's going to be like in 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah, no one can, right? So it's a sensitivity
Right.
of what happens to the project if things go one way or the other.
Correct.
There's a market for bonds out there, so you can actually plug it to that.
And
Yeah.
that question was posed to the stakeholders at the last meeting. You have ideas or input or preferences. I don't think we got a consensus.
No, nobody wanted to offer an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all you can
One
do
to
is,
base
yeah,
major financial decisions on.
yeah.
You can go out and take a look at your historical performance of inflation factors, but as your guys have pointed out, the component, called chlorine, what's it up?
It's up 3 times what it was a year ago,
So-
whatever.
It is, as I say, a shot in the dark.
Because the other item that Mr. Lilac was asking us to look at was sensitivity on discounted money,
Right.
And once we got through with the conversation, I think he started to realize that we could only invest in certain very secure
Investments.
investments, which seems very redundant, but it's TexPool, Techstar, and we settled on using a 1.5% interest rate on an interest-bearing account. Even though, we saw a number of years that was less than 1, and right now, we're at 3.5. But because it's been so low for so long, it's been a long time since we saw 6 and 7% on interest-bearing accounts.
When you got a project going out 50 years,
Right.
you've got to take into another sensitivity that makes sense, right?
And the one thing to think about is take alternate number 9. Major construction is going to be in 2027. And then there won't be any major capital expense for another 10 or 15 years. So you've got this one big project that's $200 million in about 3 or 4 years. And then then capital cost goes flat for a while. You'll have some inflation impact to operation and maintenance costs. So when Bob started realizing some of the things that we're looking at, he started realizing that maybe some of the sensitivity analysis he was asking us to do becomes kind of a small number when the big capital cost is the driver. So I'm sure a lot of those questions will be
we'll get
raised
into those,
with all of the MUDs.
Did this go down in the MUD 1 meeting with Bob Lilac
No,
that I
he
can
came
watch?
in
Oh, okay.
separately, and we we visited.
All right, good for him.
Okay.
We spent 2.5 hours with him this morning.
Okay. Well, thanks.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, any more questions for SJRA? No? Okay, attorney's report is next on the agenda.
Okay, as a reminder, my name's Katie Blasio and I help Brian, with the Woodlands districts, and he apologizes he wasn't able to attend, any of the meetings today. He had a fundraiser, that he was at all day. So I'm filling in for him. There isn't anything specific under the attorney's report.
Okay. All right, next year is a legislative session, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that'll be exciting. All right. Next is the eminent domain report under you, right?
Yes, so this is an annual administrative item. It's, chapter 2206 of the Texas Government Code requires political subdivisions with the power of eminent domain, which your district is, to file an annual report by February 1st of each year with the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. So this is something that we do for all of the districts on your behalf. So we just are requesting that authorization today so that we can get started on it to submit it prior to the deadline.
I'll make a motion that we authorize that you file that report. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
All right, that sounded like it passed. Number 11 is receive information on merchant service fees and consider option of passing a portion of the fee to customers. I think this has already been decided based on my email inbox this afternoon, but go ahead.
It was requested to be an agenda item at the trustee level by Paul Martin. And I think it's a worthy topic for discussion. You know, over the years, we have promoted credit card payments, other electronic payments to minimize the work the staff's doing in-house with handling cash or checks. And it's kind of mushroomed into a big number, $500,000 with all the MUDs combined. So what came out of the discussion at the trustee level is President Lux asked our audit finance committee to work with staff and just look at some options that might be presented back to the trustees for consideration and how to shift some of that expense or offset it going forward. It is a MUD budget item. It's not a Woodlands Water trustee budget item, but we would hope that we could come up with something that all the MUDs would agree to, because it really can't go forward without some consensus. So probably sometime after January 1, we'll be coming back to the trustees with some options.
I would like to ask a question about that. First of all, have we done a financial analysis on and a flow analysis on how, you know, what is our payment stream by channel look like? So cash versus credit card versus direct charge, you know,
We have
the
that.
entire rate. Do we have,
Yes,
we really need a presentation on that. Right now, we are charging our customers the cost of credit cards, right? Well, Maureen, what's the line item? Explain it to me then.
It's the cost the MUDs pay that we are charged by the credit card merchant processors
And why are we
It's an
being charged that?
to process the payment.
Exactly. And who pays for that?
The MUDs do.
No, the customers ultimately do, because the MUDs only
Well-
exist as a not-for-profit serving customers. And you know, we did an awful lot of work over the years to inspire customers to move to credit cards, because there were also savings there. And I'm sure there were presentations going back years ago when we started all this about how much money we were going to save. And I just think that these kind of things can frequently backfire. Okay, when people who don't expect to charge begin to get a charge. And we could end up, I'm not saying we would, but we could end up having to restore payment mechanisms that we really don't want to restore. And I think we really need to take a deep dive on this over the period of time we've gotten to it and understand exactly what the analysis needs to be across all payment methodologies. I mean, we still accept check processes, right? So how much does it cost us to take a check payment? Somebody tell me that. Does anybody know? Or is it just
So,
hidden
Paul,
in?
we discussed this in a lot of detail and went around and around the table, and that's why I think a small group was said, let's let a few people dig into this and answer all the questions you're
So
asking. We've all had.
So is somebody doing that?
That's what the committee was said was gonna put together.
Huh?
The
And-
audit committee,
yeah.
those three. The three that always is, Paul Martin,
Okay,
Ron Wilson.
because we do pay. I mean, we do pay to clear checks. We have, I'm sure we have required balances we need to maintain to offset those costs. I mean, you go down, up and down.
Yeah, no, I think all your questions are valid. We were just saying that we all had them. I think probably every MUD you had met with had the same questions. And I think the decision at the trustee level was let's get this down into a smaller group. We know the questions, that yours are spot on and others as well. And then present that back to the group and the MUDs can listen to it. The MUDs, ultimately, each MUD's gonna have to agree on it, no matter what's done, even if the trustees say, yes, this is the best solution, right? The MUDs
That is
have to agree, and then we have to agree if we're gonna not let a MUD agree, then we're gonna continue forward with it. So
As long as we got somebody
Very early in the,
who understands the process working on it, I think that's a great idea.
yeah, and there was a request for a lot of information from Maureen's team to kind of really break it down into those, channels that you talked about and what costs are incurred. If will people move to another method, and that creates another kind of problem, unintended consequences of things like that. So I think it's a wait and see for me, because I was kind of geared up for it as well, like you were.
Well, I apologize then. I mean, I was in the hospital. so
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of share
I
that,
just,
that perspective that we
when I
had.
looked at that, I said to myself,
Yeah,
that's a lot of questions.
yep. And that's why I think I don't know how many hours you guys spent amongst the 10 MUDs, probably at least 5 to 6 hours total, plus the board of trustees. And just got to where we all had the same questions, right?
it's gonna be a process and
Yeah.
early in it, but yeah, good questions, and we hope to be able to answer those and others.
All right, does that conclude what you want to say on that subject and any
Yeah.
questions? Okay. Number 12 is my little item, and it's a massive item. Discuss and act on year-end planning document and information message. So, with regard to this agenda item, we have pages 70 through 75 in the packet, and so I'm on page 70 now. And I typed up this document of things that I thought about as far as how we set our goals. Here it is November, and we need to think towards what we want to accomplish in 2023. Because while our fiscal year isn't calendar, most people think in those terms, and I thought we could take advantage, number one, of the thing our past board did, which was to send out a letter. So I had that reproduced in the packet. That's page 71. And it was good for me to read through it. So I hope you enjoyed it too, because it's got a nice structure, a good tone, and I think we can use its structure. And I thought I'd take comments from you, but I'd like to kind of go along the same structure. Like in paragraph 2, what did the MUD do that's different? Well, we recorded our meetings. It's the note that we can put a sentence in about that. We're talking now about taking on some infrastructure debt and adding a line item to our bills. We can discuss that in the next paragraph. We installed those new meters that we discussed in this old letter. We can talk about the Lone Star has set their DFC and what that means for the Woodlands. At the bottom of that letter, we can change that to update that to our tax rate discussion and how we've lowered it. And then similar to the letter of 2020, that was a review of 2019's work, we can talk about how we've added Hugh and Diane to our board and their qualifications. So I was just looking for if you have more contributions or ideas that we would put in this letter, and then we'll write it and have it for approval either December or January to send out in a letter to our residents. Any comments on that?
I would like to add that at the Board of Trustee meeting, we had the Education Committee right prior to last week's trustee meeting. And we talked about this. I brought this topic up and I
Thank
thought
you.
it was something to consider. I like the idea. I think anytime we can communicate with our constituents, it's a good thing. There was pretty enthusiastic support of at the Board of Trustees level to that the other MUDs who are all around the room should do that. I can't say that everyone thought it was a great idea, but I know that Bob and others thought it was spot on and something we should endeavor to do. John was there on the communication team from WWA, and we asked him, could he provide a template? Because I think what we'll find is, let's say that all the MUDs want to do it, whichever MUD wants to do it, I'll put it that way, that there'll be some common information that would be kind of similar across all the letters, right? They're kind of WWA kind of across the board versus something that might be directly just within your MUD. And so John kind of volunteered, I think, to kind of put a template together, a letter template together. And these are the things this space in here, you could drop the MUD 47, for example, things we accomplished last year or goals for MUD 47 next year, and kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting. So we're not starting with a blank piece of paper.
Great.
So I just wanted to share that with you. He's not here tonight, but I think he took that on, I think.
He did.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. The story about our new meters applies to all MUDs.
Yeah.
And whatever we say there should be consistent across the board. But what's different is we have a couple of new board members, and that's
Yeah,
unique to
yeah,
us. This is
yeah.
perfect.
So-
I'm glad you,
I think that'll help make this process of this a little easier to kind of get to where we're not wordsmithing every page on the. every word.
fantastic,
So
cool.
that's what
I like less work. It
Yeah.
sounds
Well,
great.
I'm wondering if this is gonna go out to everybody and they're gonna open up a letter and they're gonna see this. People don't like to read a lot of stuff. They look at it and they see a lot of ink and they're like, too much information, throw it out. And I'm wondering if there shouldn't be like almost bullet points and executive summary, bang, bang, bang. So the people are just like in a snapshot going, here's the highlights. It's there. And those that want a little bit more can read beyond that. But for somebody to go in and just a top line summary of, here's the 5 things we did that are noteworthy. And then from there, have the supporting documentation, because to start out as directors of MUD 47, we are writing, and there's going to be someone like, I'm too busy and throw it out, but we want to communicate it all.
I think John wants to do something like that.
Oh,
I
awesome.
mean, he's a communications guy, so I think
Yes.
he's thinking like you are.
Yes, yeah, just
Let's
if
make
I'm
it-
going to spend the money and 49 cents
Yeah.
to put a stamp on it, I want you to open it up and just to glance at it and hook you in enough to go, wow, I need to know more.
Yeah. Exactly. So
That would be great. If
Yeah.
he's going down that direction, got my support.
well, one of the questions I had, and maybe it's a question for the staff, is if you get an electronic bill, like an email bill, do you still get a paper bill?
You can get both, but most people
Yeah.
don't want the difference.
So this is something I think for us to figure out, I guess, if we drop this one in the mail, or do you put it with the paper bills that get the paper bills and put it with the electronic bills to get the electronic bills, and how much do you think you're gonna miss in between all that? Or those are just on auto pay and they just let it roll,
My
right?
question would be, how did we do it in the past? We've done this type of a letter in the past.
Yeah, 2020 looks like the last one, 2021. Was it just mail?
29.
It was just snail
I
mail?
believe those were mailed,
Yeah,
correct?
I think I'm a mail guy, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I just,
With our John
Yeah.
Hancocks on it. We all came
Yeah.
in and signed it.
yeah,
too,
cool.
so,
No, it's great.
yeah.
It's great.
mhm. Okay.
But you're right, you have options. If you create something that can be inserted into the water bill, it's almost like a free delivery because you're already paying postage. Then e-blast, we have a tremendous amount of folks that actually do open and read our e-blast. So we've got some data on that. And then actually sending out a separate notice like we did with this one as much. And so I don't know that you have to decide that tonight.
Right.
No, I don't think so.
I
Just some
think, but I think
thoughts out
John's
there.
on board and trying to come up with a template that
Mhm.
he thinks from a communication professional would be read and most likely to be read and absorbed.
Yeah.
So we'll get
Yeah.
that.
In the electronic version, you can have some hot links that'll take you places, which
Right.
kind of ease,
Correct.
simplifies some things
Yeah.
as well.
But there are the portion of the population that really is inspired that they get a letter. They're like, I want to open it up
Yeah.
and I want to read
You
it.
can handwrite them all, the
I
addresses.
know.
Then they'll-
That's your
then they'll open.
project. Oh, yeah, you're saying.
So, on another subject, this is more, we've been talking about our letter and our communication to residents, but halfway down page 70, you'll see our 2023 goals to consider, and that has nothing to do with our letters that we send out. This is, what should we as a board do? And I have 5 items there. The resident bill adjustment policy, is that something that we have support as a board to pursue that? Or should we wait to see if residents come to us? And I don't remember how we resolved that last meeting, and I think it was reviewed in the meeting minutes. I forgot what it said, but so what of these policies of the 5 that I have here should we be pursuing? And number 2 there, I have complete storm sewer markers. On that subject, I have this background that we had the One Water Task Force, and I learned that there are really 2 kinds of flooding. You have your Harvey, where it rained for 5 days and it was a lot of rain, but you didn't have that downpour in 1 hour that was overly aggressive and caused street flooding in our mud. But for Tax Day and Memorial Day, boy, we sure did. So of our mud, of all the muds, is most vulnerable to that kind of a rainfall event that inundates our storm sewers. And for that reason, above all the other muds, ours should have the no dumping sign on all of the storm sewers. So I met Terry I've met her before, but we talked at the village thing, and she got me involved in this. And so my circle, and you can see from the packet, I did my local neighborhood, and I told her that it is my New Year resolution to get these no dumping markers all over Mud 47 storm sewers. And I'd like to be competitive with Mud 46, who's going to get all their storm sewer markers on. And I'm going to take on some more. But if anyone on this board would like to do this, it's kind of fun. And because I've done it before, you wouldn't even have to watch the YouTube video, and I will come out with you and help. It involves taking a scrub brush and clearing it off and putting that sticker on the storm sewer that says no dumping. And the township has purchased all of this, and you get a kit from the township and do your thing. So I spent a few hours on this, and I feel good. Every time I go to get the mail now, I see the storm sewer marker that I put on there, and now there's a glob of black glue on the top of it, but I only messed up on the first one.
So are you the only one putting them on, or do you have
No,
other
someone
volunteers?
else in our neighborhood did your street.
Yeah, because Gannett Hollow is done.
Yeah,
Ours is
I
done.
noticed that, and they put the little door hanger on the,
yeah. There
like-
are pockets though between us that aren't done, so I want to complete, yeah.
I think anything's been done up there.
So we
So what
can,
does the door hanger do?
the door hanger tells you why we're here and
it's
why
like
you
full
shouldn't.
color, glossy, nice. It's the kind of door hangers
In the
that,
storm sewer. I mean, it's
yes,
related to that.
right, right.
And what it does is it gives that person that lives near the storm sewer the authority then, this is not a dumping site. While I'm putting the storm sewer thing on, just chewing gum. Obviously, someone tried to throw their gum down the thing, and, you know, they should know that this is going down the fish, going down the fish.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's the leaf blowing, you know, that I can go out there. But if you are the resident near that storm sewer, you can say, look at this, this came from my mud, and you're only supposed to put storm water down that drain.
So did you put door hangers around kind of up and down from the
Yeah.
storm drain, five or six houses?
I did
North
the
and south.
entire neighborhood because she
See
gave me a
that.
fat stack, and I wouldn't recommend it
Yeah.
because it made it a lot more
Yeah,
work.
it's a long day.
Putting the blue check marks,
Where the
was
storm
really
drains
kind
are.
of quick. All you're doing is scrub, glue, slap,
Mhm.
and move on. But so if you just do the door hangers, I'm thinking just them by the storm sewers. We can crank this out and cover our mud. So we'll hit your neighborhood.
Does anyone have Cub Scouts or?
That's a
No,
great
It seems like
idea
that'd be a
too.
great project for them,
Children,
right? That's what I'm thinking.
you got 7 kids?
Well, now that the weather's good, I'm willing
Yeah.
to put some big time
We used
into
to
it.
get, Eagle Scout. My son, that was his Eagle Scout project way back when, putting these in.
that right? It seems like it's
But
right.
I don't know, have we received any Eagle Scout requests to do this?
Well, maybe we should put out on social media that we're looking for volunteers and to help defray, because it's a big project for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm into it. I'll do some more.
Uh-huh.
So. All
So
right.
is it a question of we want to commit to this and a goal, right? That's kind of, I think, what you're teeing up as well. It's like
Yeah,
what-
it's a
what-
goal to,
what you write down, you kind of will track.
well,
right?
yeah,
What we
yeah.
commit to, we'll track.
I just go through life and do. But you're right, gotta track these goals. I always try to lose weight for the new year, and I quit tracking by February for sure. So, anyway, if you guys have any feelings about these goals and would like to make sure we track it, speak now or speak next month. I won't say forever, hold your peace.
So the resident bill adjustment policy, where did we end up on that? Is that just?
What I reported
That's
was,
not sensitive.
I think that there's probably a need for that policy to be modified now. Once the meters get fully operational, we've done what I think is an adequate job of
Mhm.
informing residents to get signed up. And at some point, probably worth revising that policy, just as a minimum to say, look, if you're going to get an adjustment, you need to commit to signing, to being a water smart, using the portal if you haven't before. I mean, as a minimum, that would be a reasonable thing to me. So
Okay, what do you think for July 2023? We've got that policy approved and
I see.
active. What do you think?
I think that's a good goal.
Okay. I'll put that
What
down.
policy is that?
The top one, the resident bill adjustment policy.
That we don't give any anymore?
Oh,
No.
it's just change the
No.
policy to not be so lenient is all, like what we discussed, yeah, a couple months ago.
Or if you are going to be, that resident needs to commit to being on the Water Smart portal so they can get notices in the future about a leak.
Right.
We have some,
But I think it was time also to see kind of how many adjustments do we really have?
exactly.
Because we don't have that many.
Right, right. But we have had in the past and it's been really sizable, so we want to close that. So, okay, so July, we'll focus up on that. And then I'm gonna be working hard on storm sewer markers until the temperature goes north of 80 again. And then I'm not standing in front of that stinky mosquito pit. So, all right. Smart meter opt-out policy. What do you think of that? Should we proactively make a policy or wait till residents have asked for one?
I think we make a policy that we don't allow anything other than smart meters.
Okay.
First- I mean, we presumably we did all of the legwork right up front to evaluate every aspect of this and how it would affect customers. Our vendor, I think, gave us certain assurances and information. And I think any discussion of going backwards is just
Backwards.
backwards.
Yes, I think most people agree. We do have some residents that are quite concerned about the health of that.
Radiation.
And a lot of other MUDs, there's a lot of pretty good information out there, other MUDs around the country who have dealt with the same thing, and many of them have put a policy together. And that policy would say, okay, if we're gonna change out your meter back to the manual one, you're gonna charge you for that. And we're gonna charge you every month to read it. And you hate to do that for like one house, especially when one house has 2 meters in it and one's the neighbors. You know, so we've had that addressed here publicly twice. I've received a personal contact, I think you have as well. And we haven't done anything with it other than to provide information about tests and studies and all the work that you just referred to that was done to test these meters and how they compare to other things in your household, your phone, your microwave, your TV, anything else you may have on. And all that's out there, but that may not be sufficient, I guess, in some cases. So
I hear what you're saying. I think sometimes it's got to be sufficient.
yeah. So I think our choice is we let it go and see if it continues on, and we can be responsive to the residents, say, based on everything we know and everything we've seen, we feel this is not something we're ready to take on at this time.
But if they're adamant that they want a manual meter, they'll be the kind of people, because of principle of the whole thing, will like, okay, if it's an extra $2 a month charge for you to have somebody come out and read my meter, or
Maybe more than that.
me have, or
It'd be a
you,
lot more.
or, you know, you send me a card and I read it myself and send it in.
Yeah.
They acknowledge they're doing that with their electric meter in public
Yeah.
open comment, so.
Yeah.
I'm for making a policy and charging appropriate, but I don't know what the
Well, but
appropriate charge is.
But if they switch back to energy, having the manual meters, they're paying an upcharge for that.
That's right.
And you don't care because your health is the primary reason that you're doing it. So to
out of
them,
34,000 meters we installed, we've had 2 people come and complain.
Yeah.
Okay.
there's always someone in a crowd.
Ironically, they're both in MUD 47.
Yeah.
No one else is.
And that's why we brought this up at the trustee meetings, that let MUD 47 kind of work this out. At least to have a view on it, because none of the other MUDs are dealing with it right now. Right? So let's not get every MUD involved, but we
Right.
will be.
So
So
we may never deal with it again. I mean,
what's that? Sorry.
we may never deal with it
I
again.
think that's more likely.
They may never come back.
Yeah.
They may decide to move to Arizona. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you managed to a unit of 1 or 2.
It's,
No, how many did you say? 34,000?
Well, and then plus with all of the new people that are moving into the area, and that new people moving in, you just present to them that we have smart meter in this policy and that's it.
This is how we do it.
Yeah, I don't even think you have to really present it. It's what's there, right?
Yeah.
what's that, Mike? Sorry.
But if we offer an opt-out and the person moves, then the new person, maybe they want the meters. Now we gotta
Yeah.
go put it back in.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
No, I agree. We're just trying to be, I guess,
Sensitive
responsive to
neighbors.
a legitimate constituent concern. right?
We really then have to charge the customer that wanted it changed out for both the changing it out and the putting it back after they move away, because we don't want to make new residents, not have smart meters. So
And it's important to remember, as I think somebody mentioned, 95+% of our residential meters have 2 meters in a box.
Right.
So if really radiation safety is your concern, we pull yours, there's one 6 inches away that's going to stay there.
even less than 6 inches. Those are tight boxes. Anyway,
I guess my position is, let's let's redo our homework. Let's pull together the science on this and be prepared to answer.
And I think we did give that information last month or month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I need to get that to you, Paul. We had quite a few documents
Yeah.
that we put
Yeah,
together.
I was, as I say, in the hospital being.
They had pictures and everything, so it was like phone, microwave, I'm like, easy to understand.
Just by show of hands, how many of you want to make a policy and pursue this and bring it up again? No? Okay,
Yeah,
then we've knocked
Let's
out
just
one of our
see if
2023 New Year
comes back
resolutions.
again.
yeah.
That's the way I'm looking at this.
What's that?
Yeah, we're on fire. We just knocked out one of our 23 New Year
I just don't think
resolutions.
it warrants the amount of effort right
Okay.
now for something that's such a de minimis amount.
Hmm.
And I think the next step would be to help those residents see some of the information we have, share that with them directly. That's a one
Agree,
way to.
because they'll be able to
A bit
detect.
of an outreach,
Mhm.
and I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
And just say, hey, here's where we are with this, and does this still kind of ring the bell for you?
Thank you.
So maybe we could chat
Yeah.
about that.
Okay.
Okay.
On the next
Thanks.
item, I saw in the trustee meeting that, or maybe it was talking with Jim, but MUD 67 is going to do something to impart information to the other funding MUDs on how the project is doing. And SJRA is our project manager on that, right?
Will be.
Will be, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the Kirkendall Dam repairs, we discussed them this evening, but, should we look into what else? What if our federal funds are denied?
We're already working on long-term
You are,
option
okay.
because we were doing that in advance of Congressman Crenshaw picking that project up to.
Okay.
maybe fund it. I wouldn't count on it. If it happens, it's Christmas,
Right.
Okay. Drainage maintenance transparency. I'd like to look to consider including integrated drainage maintenance strategy goal that creates, this is trustee board level, but, I'd like for us to be able to talk more intelligently about what our drainage maintenance is. Like right now, I can say that we mow and fertilize because I've heard that so many times that you guys report that in the meeting. But I've since learned that you have a 5-year plan. And I'd like maybe for one of our future meetings for you to educate us more on the storm sewers and for us to be able to ask you questions and things like that.
Happy to do that.
Okay. So,
I guess on that one, I mean, I like that one, but I also think that we need to include, tracking and information on flooding events related to this.
I love it.
I mean, everybody likes to talk about flooding, but nobody wants to show you how deep the puddle is.
Mhm.
And where they are. Where they're-
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I think what kind of gets my energy on this is that it goes beyond just in any individual mud, right? I mean, the whole drainage system has to work across. It's an inter-mud concern. So if we don't have a strategy that's kind of encompasses all of the muds that need to be encompassed for water to move from point A to point B, then one mud doing it really great and another one downstream of it not, or doing something different that doesn't allow the water to really move through, doesn't really get you much, right? So I think that's the challenge, is we're gonna have to get educated on how the water moves on the different kind of storms we have, and who then needs to be involved in kind of making sure that strategy is executed. Right?
And also, I think, what are we doing annually to address the situations? Okay, I mean,
Yeah, we clean the silt out of the muds, is that what you mean? I mean.
Well, no, I'm talking
Clear
about
out the
actual flooding. I mean, we have people talk about flooding all the time and they don't even understand the basics of how the flood, and maybe it's because we haven't educated them, but, our streets are floodways, if you will, or
Yeah,
waterways.
Yeah, therefore.
And that's how it was created. And, we had a gentleman in here, and he showed a video, okay, of what he said was flooding in his neighborhood. Okay. And he was showing pictures at the bottom of my street. Okay. During a high water event, I'll call it a high water event. And he had taken pictures of the outflow areas, okay, on East Alden Bridge, by East Alden Bridge there, by the San Jacinto facility, which was part of the flooding control mechanism, right, for the community. And it had never flooded. But he was passing around, and he did it at this meeting, pictures of flooding in his neighborhood and of his home, which was all nonsense. And really what I think is important is that we, as part and parcel of this, perhaps what we need to do is expand the knowledge base of the community on, to your point, what is the structure?
Yeah.
What is the maintenance? What is a flooded area unintentionally and a flooded area intentionally?
Yeah.
And there's a
How was it
difference.
designed, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important too. I have that New Orleans link in there, and for a resident that lives, somebody maybe looking out their back window at a storm drain, for them to know when it was maintained and if they could go out to a website. I mean, are we in this to win it? Like, do a project like that where residents can go ask and get information on what we've done to maintain our drainage system. Do we want to go that far? Because our mission statement is to provide exceptional services and to see that there's another community with, a map that people can go see what the scoop is about the storm drain behind them that's exceptional.
No, I can only say that I know when I moved here, okay, the first time I saw big rains in Texas, okay, it was coming up, to me, it was water coming up towards my front door, okay? It never got near my front door, but it was, I had a big piece of property and it was moving towards me. And I certainly wasn't aware until I inquired, why did they build like this? Right? Because you don't have, like you do in New York, okay, curbs. You have a different type of curb, if you will,
Right.
which facilitates the movement of water, right? Lots of people, to your point about people moving here, it's important that our residents at least have a place to go to understand, I think, really what happens when it rains here.
John's,
Geiger.
yeah, his communication plan, strategic plan, which is out there on the website. We're going through some drafts of it now. That's a great item probably to put in there, and it's all driven around what topics do we want to talk about when during the year. And he's got a first quarter kind of broken down by quarter, right? And it might just make a lot of sense to, try to building out the topics by quarter right now. In that committee that we say, well, a drainage kind of information, infogram, whatever you call it, or something to say, this is, the streets were built to do this. If it comes in your house, that's a problem. But if it's not in your house, it's not a problem. And use a couple of just the basic information that you just described. Maybe John could pick up on that.
We've already got that graphic prepared.
Oh, wow.
And that's maybe the
Bring it
first
to the
step,
next meeting.
right?
We
Just
can
for
look at it.
education. It's all part of that education and transfer. Put that on there.
All right.
Okay. Do you remember that? Next time we have a committee meeting on that? Okay.
Okay. So I think we hit on this subject. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add on it? But we'll keep bringing this back to make sure we're striking off our tasks to be a better mud. Next on the agenda is the general manager's report, Jim.
Okay, from the trustee meeting, I want to report, Region H Representative Arthur Bredehoff made a nice presentation to the trustees highlighting his early activities with the Region H. I think talking to him, he's excited to be in that role, and we'll be hearing from him on a regular basis, it sounds like. I also reported that I was asked to speak to a local group of RE/MAX realtors at a monthly meeting they hold up at their office on Woodlands Parkway. They had seen the news story of the U of H press release about subsidence, had concerns. So in my discussion with them, I said, subsidence is well documented around this region, Harris County, Montgomery County, for years. I said, but for the Woodlands, and that since we have introduced surface water, we are doing a lot to mitigate subsidence. And if you look at the data, it shows that after surface water was introduced in 2016, again, subsidence has been substantially mitigated, and that we're looking at additional improvements with a 50-50 blend going forward. And I offered to be a resource for them in the future if they had concerns. It was a lengthy meeting, well over an hour I was there, so that was worthwhile. I've been asked to make a presentation to the Grogan's Point resident associations in December. Ed is going to participate in that with me. It'll probably be a lot of discussions about water and drainage with that group. Also reported that our staff attended a Sterling Ridge Village Association function and a Cochran's Crossing Village Association function on October 22nd and 23rd. We had a booth there set up with handouts for the residents and the customers and kids, and always nice to participate in those community events. I didn't make it to yours, but I did make it to the Sterling Ridge Village Association one. And it seemed like it's well received and it's worthwhile for us to be there when we can. Hugh had asked for a summary of the AMI project, to look back, and that was provided at the trustee meeting. It is also in your packet. We made some tweaks to the original document. They're highlighted in yellow, but anyway, good information is there. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Just a couple of takeaways from that. Rereads are recorded to be down substantially, which was predicted. We did not fill 2 vacant customer service positions this fiscal year because we think work orders are going to be reduced with the AMI system. And anyway, that's just a couple of the benefits, and happy to answer again any questions you have on that. Also, I reported December the 12th, we'll be having a meeting with the San Jacinto River Authority, their financial advisor, and our financial group to look at impacts bond sales for water infrastructure might have on our retail water bills. I've talked to a number of y'all about that I think it's important to get that get that qualified early and start communicating with our public well in advance of actually putting it on the water bill. So we'll be starting that process on December the 12th. And last but not least, we have 2 compliment emails in your package. One regarding my presentation, and then another with one of our staff members. So always nice to get those. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, very good. How about you, Hugh, our trustees report?
Well, you touched the highlights there for sure. And the education committee, I think, took quite a bit of discussion, which I think was excellent, that we were going to have a strategic communication plan that will be updated, kind of an evergreen document. It'll be cascaded to all the MUDs, and each MUD can kind of put pieces into it to recommend. We're trying to drive it at a central layer, but these are for kind of cross the mud kind of communication, messaging. I do want to kind of congratulate both Water Agency and San Jacinto on the Cochran's Crossing Festival. I mentioned that earlier. There was over 1,800 people at Cochran's Crossing that day. And your teams were outstanding. Both of them were just, I mean, they were there for all
1 o'clock
day.
to 4 o'clock.
Ran out of-
We were there.
The water agency ran out of water. It was so hot, right? So that was an interesting, ironic event, but we got more water. But it was just fabulous to see how well they interacted with the community, with the kids, handing out the coloring books and answering questions. And it was just an outstanding, I think, community event. So well done.
Yeah,
But
you
thank-
had some great personalities there. Some
Thanks for the-
really
Some of
engaged.
it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for the commitment of the folks there, and they were just perfect.
But one thing that going forward of just having been there the whole time and talk with a lot, and the kids getting the little stickers and stuff, they love that stuff. But when you actually talk with the adults, you had the one little the little bag that was foil lined that you could put all your grease and stuff in it. I can't tell you the amount of bags I handed out and talking with people that they just don't think about, don't throw this stuff down there. Here's a little bag. If we could just have, that if you need more of these bags, you can come up here and get them. It's just like, please don't think that this is a one-off. The other thing I was thinking and looking at it is that on the side of the bag to just have some helpful hints. Don't put this stuff down your garbage disposal and whatever. I mean, you think everybody understands that, but so many of the young moms and young dads and that were out there and pushing their kids around, and I'm giving them one, well, what's this for? And especially those that were kind of, just talking to them where their English was pretty broken because they were speaking Spanish more than anything else. And they're trying to tell me about all of the stuff that they cook. And I was like, great. So when this is done, you put all of this stuff in there.
They may need a bigger bag.
Yeah, yes. But these are the people that live in Cochran's Crossing. And this is the kind of one-on-one education that speaks volumes, that you can give them something and when you're done. And I didn't want to say you can come back and get more because I didn't know whether that was truthful or not. But we've got the real estate on the side of the bag to be able to print some helpful hints. Don't throw these things down your disposal, and that'll go a long way in terms of just helping out, our role in that of just keeping the system clean from stuff we don't want thrown down. And if we could get a bunch of these, and every single time that we're out, and not just the Cochran's Crossing event, but just so many things, like even you were talking about talking with a bunch of these realtors and stuff, bring a bunch of these bags with and give them to the realtors and saying, hey, put one in every single new house that you sell, because now you got instant public relations value going there, because the new people move in the house and right next to the garbage disposal is one of these cool bags, goes, hey, in the Woodlands, Texas, don't throw these things down your garbage disposal. If you need more, go to this website, call this number, get some more things. And it's just one way that we're starting to connect with our constituency that we're not doing right now. Those little bags, I mean, the adults were glamming onto those as much as the kids were glamming onto the stickers. Yeah.
It's well done. Very well done.
All right. Well, 15 and 16 are not
Can I
necessary.
ask one
Yeah.
question? Sorry, it's back on Jim, your report, I think. There was a TCEQ notice of violation, I noticed. Was that just a timing little thing that, I'm just
Are you
curious?
talking about the flushing of the dead end lines?
Yes, I just noticed it on page 77. It was just a unregulated contamination monitoring rule 5. And then it said TCEQ violation. We're still working to address our violation notice from TCEQ for failure to complete flushing of all dead end lines.
Yeah, that's a different topic, just the spacing of the indent.
Oh, okay.
That was a while back. We're kind of in limbo.
So we're trying to,
We don't want to commit to flushing dead end lines. We're trying, and really it's just in limbo, has not shown up as a true violation to us. We've had a couple of discussions about a path forward we think may work.
Mhm.
We just have not implemented it yet.
This was a 2022 thing,
It was.
or is this a carryover
This
from
is-
previous
no,
year?
Yeah, it was an inspection in January of this year.
So I understand how those things go. I just didn't know if it's, just curious if it's, we're debating with them whether it's needed. It's just a,
We
but
are.
I can imagine.
We are debating with them. We're looking to, trying to find other communities like us that,
Mhm.
you know, are not doing it as well. It's a working process.
And we don't
But it's
want to,
not harming us in any way at this point. It's.
we don't want to do it because it's just more extra work and cost.
At the
and no
expense.
benefit.
Waste of water.
Woodlands is designed with, you know, I would say maybe 1,000 dead end lines, cul-de-sacs, and it was an accepted design. We're not the only community that was
Mhm.
designed that way. And it's just a huge waste of water and manpower to commit to doing that. Now, the new design, and if you look at Woodforest, for example, the cul-de-sacs are not dead ends, they're looped. The state has gotten very stringent, if you will, about requiring loop lines rather than dead ends. But when we say a dead end, the Woodlands is designed, you may have an 8-inch or a 6-inch line, and then as you get down the cul-de-sac, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then typically we have a customer service line right near the end. So it's not truly a dead end. It's being flushed by the 2 or 3 residents that live
Mhm.
near that end of the cul-de-sac.
And this
So,
must be
and we
done
just don't have
annually?
it.
Yeah.
We don't have a water quality problem with
Yeah.
our residents because of that
Gotcha.
design.
Okay.
So it's a struggle.
Thank you.
Good question. Yeah. Okay, so
Perfect.
number 17 is receive comments from the public. Do we have any comments since, no? Okay,
Isn't that future?
yeah, future agenda items, announcements. Yeah. Discuss matters for future
Now,
agenda.
I will tell you that this Christmas week in December is unique. It's the same week, Christmas is the same week of the MUD meetings. All the MUD meetings prior to you have decided to defer their meeting that month unless something comes up that needs them to come in and meet. So we'd
Well,
like for
should
you.
we be composing our letter to residents and approving that? What do you guys think? You want to meet?
Yeah, I'm good to meet.
I don't care either way. I'll be here.
Yeah, myself. It's a work day for me, so I'm cool.
So we could change the time so staff doesn't have to be here at dinner
Yeah.
time. What do you
Well,
think?
if it's a working meeting, do we?
Mhm.
So I'm just looking at my calendar when it is.
What day of the month is?
It's a Tuesday.
Christmas is December, no, that's always the 25th.
That's our meeting.
Is the trustee meeting canceled too?
No, trustee meeting is on
It's on the 14th, yeah,
just that week.
the 20th,
So it's the 20th.
20th. I mean, I'm happy. Are you guys working that day? I mean,
Oh, they work
It's like
all the time.
20th, man. It's like, I gotta work that day.
I'm tired. I can ask those kind of questions now.
Whenever I call, Maureen is always there. She is cranking out the accounting. So,
I'm okay to come in.
Yeah,
Sure.
we're good.
okay, well, we'll fish for a date, maybe.
Do you want to
it
start
at-
earlier though? I mean,
Yeah,
can
I
we
like
do
the
that?
idea of starting earlier. It's
Can you
so
do
dark
that?
out and stuff.
Yeah, let me see what I can do.
Oh, yeah, you have a job. and,
Yeah. Yeah, I can make 5. I can, because I get off at 5. I can zip over here.
So the MUD meeting before us is canceled, is that
Yeah.
right? Is that MUD, I don't know who that is.
Month 7.
MUD 7, okay. Well, why don't we see if we can do
Do
that?
a little bit earlier.
I think that'll help.
Yeah.
It was, what are they, 4 o'clock?
4:30.
4:30?
Okay, so we'll do
Maybe
4:30.
4:30?
Yeah, I'll get Leslie to cover for me.
There you go. That's delegation.
It is.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Awesome.
So a quick update.
Mhm.
Your grease bag, 5 boxes of grease bags will be here tomorrow. 5 boxes.
To her house?
I love it. I love it.
So
No, I just think it's a great marketing tool. If we take it, it's so practical.
Yeah.
We can just put some branding on it. all these new people moving in, they get something in their little
I
house.
just had to stand up. I think we're not adjourned yet.
Well, I
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
he's
My
leaving.
watch is telling me to get up because
He's leaving.
it's good for your health. You gotta get up. All right, meeting adjourned.